welcome to episode number 225 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network. Quarter of a way to the next century mark here, episode 300. Long way to go still. Ryan and Trey here with you tonight, just the two of us. Trey, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. First day of school, man. It's just tomorrow. It's just always a hectic day, and got two different schools, and we had fantasy draft that we'll talk about a little bit, and yeah, just a lot going on, man. How are you?
Yeah, doing not too bad. Same here. Very busy time of year. Like you said, we just finished an NFL fantasy draft, like right before this, and then scrambling to get ready for this show. So it's been a busy night. Don't quite have the back to school thing to deal with myself yet, but all the kids enjoy the first day of school and enjoy the start of the new school year. And parents, God bless you for all you do. And hope everything goes smoothly there. Tonight, we're going to preview Week 14 in the CFL. We got a couple rematches, a couple new matchups, and we'll take a look at the storylines, fantasy players to watch, and our betting picks for each of these games. We are also live on different platforms, our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or X, and Twitch channels, thanks to our presenting sponsor, Game Time TV, which you can learn more about by visiting GameTimeTV.ca or Facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. Got a couple people tuning in live. Feel free to send in your comments, questions in the live chat, and we'll take them throughout the night here. Before we go any further as well, we do want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. All right, Trey, before we get into the previewing this week in the CFL, we did, like we just talked about, complete our Discord League fantasy draft. For those that don't know, I mean, we've mentioned it quite a few times, but we do have a community Discord where we do fun perks, such as, getting to play in a fantasy league with us here and there. We don't have any more coming up right now, but we do always have content and stuff going on in the Discord. So if you haven't joined already, a link is in the description to join it for free. We chat CFL fantasy, betting, NFL, all that fun stuff every week. But we just did a draft. The four of us here on the show, 4 members of our Discord community joined in. How'd you feel the draft went? And I guess in general, how you feeling about week 1 of the NFL season start?
What does Will Ferrell character on Talladega Nights say? I'm pissing excellence. That's what I feel like, man. I'm doing good. I like it. I think I know you talk about, you're the lowest ranked team or projected team, this or that, but that means nothing. It's fantasy football. You could have the best 3 players and they all go on IR halfway through the week. So we'll see how it goes. How are you? I know you're more of a CFL. You played some fantasy last year, right?
Yeah, last year was the first year I got into NFL fantasy, and if anybody knows how passionate I am about fantasy football from the CFL side, should be no surprise that I dove right into it with consuming as much NFL fantasy content as I could, and yeah, I'm all in on it. Can't wait for that first day of NFL Red Zone and watching all the games live just for the fantasy impact there. So.
How do you feel the difference between the two, since we're on the topic? Like, is there a difference, or do you kind of use the same strategy in both?
I mean, it is, the biggest difference, right, is probably just that the dual running back systems for NFL teams, you're not just picking the lead back necessarily. You're getting deep into a draft and generally picking guys that are gonna, handcuff, be a guy that could become a starter and a good starter if the regular starter goes down and things like that. So I think it's a different challenge. Obviously, there's more teams to pick from. In the CFL, you're rather limited, and potentially, depending how deep your draft goes, you're getting into, third or fourth wide receiver maybe on some teams. But when it comes to the NFL, we had an 8-team draft. You're probably not going that deep on a squad. So it's, trying to get the best guys and the best teams. You got the tight end position to throw in there too. I don't know. It's fun. It's a different challenge. I like that. I like the both versions. I like having CFL fantasy, our weekly games to fill in the lineups there, and then I like the season long thing, which I think works better with the NFL than it does CFL. What do you think?
No, I agree. I like the head-to-head matchups a lot better, and the way we have it. So yeah, as long as it doesn't turn into a dynasty league, because those make me lose hair more. But yeah, I'm having a good time. And as long as Mike and Adam don't win, I don't really care. Like that's all I want.
They did get two of the first three picks in the draft. You and I had the second last and the last pick, so I think we got the best ones. That's my big thing. Any fantasy draft, any sport, whether it's hockey, football, whatever, give me the last pick in the draft. Give me the last pick and the first pick in the second round, and I will take that over the first pick anytime. I hate having that first pick, and then all of a sudden you get to then what, you're picking 20th overall there. Love the last pick. Love having the turn there where you're able to, fire off two straight picks. I got what I wanted.
And just for note for people who are listening that weren't involved, Mike took Nathan Rourke.
Mike did take Nathan Rourke as his last pick in the draft. Yes. Trade bait for me, perhaps.
Oh, man.
Somebody was going to do it. I was not. As much as I talked it up, obviously, I was not going to do that. But you know what? Wouldn't be surprised if Mike drops him in a week. But yeah, that's NFL fantasy. I'm sure we'll throw in some NFL tidbits here and there on the show over the course of the season. But obviously, we focus most on the CFL. We have a jam-packed show full of CFL content to get to every single week. So I guess let's dive into our first game here. And talk about the Hamilton Tiger Cats visiting the Ottawa Red Blacks on Friday night. The only game, this game on Friday night, we got a triple header on Saturday. We'll talk about that once we get to the first Saturday game, I think, a little bit there. But Ottawa is coming off of the bye. They're playing at home to the Ticats, who are coming off of a very short week because they just played Monday. Now they got to play Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We kind of had this discussion earlier in the season with a Winnipeg BC matchup that I think was a similar situation. As that's my opening storyline and question for you here is, do you worry about that from the Hamilton side, the short rest against the team off the bye?
Yeah, I do. I really don't. That's the only downside I have to the CFL. We like these games being spread out, and especially with the holiday now, throwing them on the Monday. Oh, I know you can't go up on. What could you do though? You know what I mean? You're kind of Hamilton screwed though. You give them the Saturday and you put the one, but yeah, I don't know. You can't really fix it though. But yeah, I think definitely gives Ottawa somewhat of an edge. I think a bigger edge than normal, especially being yeah, and this one's gonna have big playoff implications too, right? So.
Yeah, big East Division matchup between these two teams. Hamilton, they looked good the week before against BC. Then all of a sudden they had to play Toronto, and they looked not great. Although they did rally there and they started to put some points on the board there in the past. I mean, they put 28 points up this week against Toronto. They put up 30 against BC the week before. Starting to kind of wonder if that change in the offensive coordinator for the Ticats has proven effective, because Taylor Powell had his best game. Granted, it's easy to do so against the Argos passing defense. I think he threw 3 touchdowns in this game. As Hamilton, I'm starting to wonder if Hamilton's kind of this team we're sleeping on that's going to put it together in the second half of the season and make a run for it. The short week is a struggle for me maybe this week when we get to our picks, but I don't know. Do you feel the same way at all about this team picking up steam, or was it just a flash in the pan?
I don't know. I still have the very bad East bias. I don't know. I'm really not sold on Hamilton and stuck with a guy who essentially came in this season as a third stringer, which I know we see happen a lot, but I don't know. But I guess that's Ottawa's kind of in the same boat as well. Was this guy a third stringer, or was he just a second stringer?
For Ottawa, Dustin Crum was the fourth stringer.
Four stringer. That's what I mean. So
right?
we get the battle of the fourth stringer versus the battle of the third stringer. I don't know. It's very interesting, and I'm still not sold on Hamilton, and I just think that I don't know, but there's not many teams in the East I am sold on either, other than Toronto, maybe. So there's probably not many teams in the league I'm sold on other than maybe Toronto. So I don't know. I really want to see. I want to see some teams actually put some winning streaks together, and I think what Toronto's the only one really on one right now. So it's kind of tough to see. But I mean, that's what makes for great football at this rate. If the playoffs were to start today, you have Hamilton going into Montreal. Could you really pick a winner out of that? That's a tough game. And even in the West, you have Saskatchewan going into BC. That could be a tough game to pick too, right? So, I mean, it's a good thing. For first round, wouldn't it be Saskatchewan in the BC?
Oh, sorry for the first round.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the matchup this week.
Oh, sorry. I'm just talking about playoffs in general. Like, if the playoffs were to start today, it's really tough to pick. And there's a lot of teams on, even Edmonton, Calgary are still on the bubble. Ottawa's not out of it. It's great that we're not having a team who's 0-12 and completely out of it, right? But I don't know. Are you sold on Hamilton? I know you.
I'm no, but I'm getting maybe a little more in that direction. Like I said, I think the offensive game plan has been better. You know, the defense at times has shown flashes, but I'm not there yet. And you know, I think if they come out this week and have a convincing victory on a short week, then yeah, I'd be even more impressed with them. But I don't know. They are a team that I feel like does put it together in the second half of the year normally. It's interesting though, because the East is now this team that, or early season we were talking, could an East crossover happen? Now this week, I think if Ottawa wins this and Calgary wins versus Edmonton this week, Calgary's technically in the West crossover now, because Hamilton and Ottawa would both be at 4 wins, Calgary would be at 5. So I feel like we've seen the East kind of fall back from that early surge we saw from them, and maybe it's that they've been playing more divisional matchups now, and that's played into it. But, you know, if we talk about the Ottawa side here, this is a team coming off a bye that has looked hopeful this season. Like, they've looked good. They've been in close games so far. I mean, they're 3-8, but they've only got a minus, I think it's like 32 point differential in their losses. So that's not a big deficit there. You know, they're rated games till the end of it, but it seems like they can't get it done for Ottawa. 0-5 against teams in the division too. 3-3 against the West, but 0-5 against their own division, and that's the kind of stuff that's going to kill you in the standings, isn't it?
No, it is, because that's double the ground you're making up, right? If you're being a team in your division, and no, but I mean, it's still going to be good. Ottawa, if you want to throw these random like split stats, Ottawa's 2-3 at home and Hamilton's 3-2 away. So, you know, pretty evenly matched there. Hamilton's not exactly taking control of the division at 2-5 in their games, right? So, but I don't know. I don't know. This one's a really tough one again, because I'm not sold on either team. So I don't know what I'm going to do betting wise when we get to that. And fantasy, I think I stayed away from this one in fantasy. Yeah, kind of. We'll talk about that later. But I don't know. This was an interesting one. Ottawa's favored. I thought, I don't know why I thought Hamilton might be favored, but again, it's basically a pick 'em on a neutral site if you play that 3 points of the home team, right? So I don't know. And what's the whole drama with the receiver in Hamilton? You know, so
Let's talk about Duke Williams today, who tweeted out that something along the lines of "Hamilton, it's been real, y'all," or "Hamilton, I'm out," or something like that. And obviously, there was large speculation: did the team cut him? Did he walk away from the team, etc.? And after the practice, Orlando Steinauer basically went and said he's not going to play this week due to an injury, and will address his status going forward another time, but that he is still on the roster. So that's interesting. Interesting wording there that he's used, that will address it going forward. You know, is he going to be out long term now with that injury? Is he, is it just a couple of weeks there? Seems like he's still with the team for now, and he deleted the tweet afterwards, but sounded like fans were quite up in arms for a little bit over that, because, you know, he hasn't been the Duke Williams that we saw in the past when he was with Edmonton and broke out in his career. But he's been decent. Like he's been a decent contributor in that offense so far this year. So that's a hole that the Ticats are going to have to fill. And I don't know, they're not a team that's super deep at receiver to begin with. So we'll see. We'll see who steps in and fills that void there. And talking about wide receivers on the other side of things, for Ottawa, I think the big storyline here might be Braylon Addison making his return to Hamilton for the first time, or I guess home game against the Ticats. Last game before the bye week, he stepped into the lineup for the first time for Ottawa. Minimal production, but maybe still getting his feet wet. One of those games you have to wonder if he's circling on his calendar a little bit against his former club there. And that's a team with Ottawa that, if they're going to go on a run second half of the season, Shaq Evans, Braylon Addison, these are guys that have been top-tier receivers in the CFL in years past that didn't play in the first half of the season. So, are they a team that, if they've already been on the cusp of things, that maybe you think could get things together down the stretch? Like, what do they need in order to? They're close every game. Why aren't they getting it done?
I don't know. I wonder if their salary cap's a slight issue with, like, is Bo still on the books, even being injured? You know what I mean? Like,
this is for Ottawa, though.
Oh, sorry, Ottawa. I misheard you. I think they're still kind of just inexperienced, right? They got their fourth-string starter is now their starter. Coaching staff is relatively still trying to get things going after being implemented last season. I think it's just some lack of experience, and it's a team that hasn't been there before. Like, it's something Mike always we bring up, the championship mentality, right? That teams like Toronto and Winnipeg have. They just don't have that yet, because probably the last time most of these guys were in a championship would have been high school, if that, right? So I think that's kind of where I am with Ottawa.
Yeah, no, that's a great observation there. Well, let's get into fantasy players to watch in this game. You said you've got nobody in this game.
That's a lie. That's a lie. I do have Butler.
Okay, you got James Butler. He's on my list as well. I've got a couple of names to run through in this one. So let's start with Butler, since you mentioned him. $12,000 for the Ticats running back. He has been an easy to lock in running back for me pretty much every week. This week, I do have a little bit more hesitation on it, though, because his worst two games of the year have come against Ottawa, and they give up the second least in the league to running backs. But that being said, I don't think you can ignore the sheer volume that you get from Butler. For all the flack we've given their offensive game plan over the year, he's tied for fourth in the league in carries per game with 12, and leads all running backs with 5 targets per game. So that's a sheer volume of opportunities. Again, I always say 90% of their offense. So I think you still have to consider Butler, even though it's a tough matchup. I also like quarterback Taylor Powell as a big value play this week at quarterback. $8,000 last week. He was the single top value play of the week with 23.5 points at just $6,200. Career day for him against one of the league's worst passing defenses. And this week, he gets to face the worst passing defense in the CFL. The Red Blacks give up 21.1 fantasy points on average to opposing quarterbacks, which is insane. And his price has gone up slightly, but I think he's still worth the play. I also really like the connection he has with Terry Godwin at $9,500. He's one of Hamilton's top receivers and probably the most consistent one. He's got 8 or more targets in 4 of his last 5 games and 10-plus fantasy points in 6 of his last 8, despite the underwhelming passing totals Powell has had. So as he continues to get better, faces this awful Red Blacks pass defense, which also gives up a league worst 12.9 to left wideouts. I think Terry Godwin's in for a huge day there as well. And I do have 2 names on the Ottawa side also. I touched on him already. Braylon Addison comes at the low price of $5,000 for a guy who used to be one of the CFL's top receivers. Made his debut in Ottawa 2 weeks ago. Had 4 catches on 4 targets for 6.7 points. I think the price is so cheap. And again, could he, be in for a big day against his former club? If you need a value play, Braylon Addison could be one to look at $5K. in price. And I also like his quarterback, Dustin Crum, at 10,000. Because they're coming off that bye, because they're facing a Ticats team that could be a little bit tired. And while they did a good job of shutting him down as a passer in those 2 previous games, he averaged 86.5 rushing yards in those 2 games against them. So, again, that defense a little more tired, a little more room for Dustin Crum to have a big rushing day here. And I think he's worth a look there also. Anything else on fantasy, or you want to get into betting odds?
Oh, let's get into betting odds here. Ottawa -3.5 favorites in the nation's capital, over under 48. I don't know. This one's tough because we're just talking about it. We're not sold on either team, so it's kind of hard to pick a winner. But I am gonna I'll go with the home team, Ottawa. I'm probably more sold on Ottawa than I am Hamilton, which is weird to say. So I'll go with that, and I'll go with the under. I've been going heavy on the over lately, but I think this one will be a little lower. Ryan, what do you got?
I'm going to go with Ottawa as well. I really I had full intentions of picking Hamilton in this game until I saw the difference in the rest from last week for both teams. And that's probably the only reason I'm taking Ottawa, because I think I do like Hamilton actually a little bit better right now. But I'm going to take the Red Blacks in that category. And I'm just trying to see if I can find quickly what the score point totals were last 2 times these played. Let's see. Ottawa scored 7. No, that's fantasy points. 13 points against them in week 5. 12 points. Yeah, it's pretty low scoring. I'm going to take the under as well between these 2 teams. I'm not super sold on their abilities to put points on the board.
That was good.
All right, let's move on to our second game of the week here, which is the Montreal Alouettes at the Toronto Argonauts. Another new matchup, no rematch in this game. Both teams played different teams last week. 1 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. First note on this game, I think this is our first Saturday triple header of the season. What do you think? About that scheduling? Do you like the triple headers?
If I was at home, yeah. Not ideal on Banjo Bowl Saturday, where I'm probably going to be at the parking lot before this game kicks off, right? But on like next Saturday and following Saturdays, yeah, I don't mind it. It's tough though. I got to pick Sunday or Saturday which to stay home and watch football all day. With the misses, you can't have both days, so it's tough now.
Yeah, that's fair. I
know you like to spread out, but what are you gonna do? Like, you could do 2 on Friday, but that you have to have a West and an East game then, which doesn't always line up. You can't put them on Sunday or Thursday now. So,
yeah, I guess that's the big thing that plays into it, right? Is that just the time zone differences for a Friday night game? That's an excellent point, that you kind of need an East and a West matchup in order to make that work. And
yeah, it's like you need BC to host every week on Friday night or something at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, right? And then, yeah.
I'd just be so interested in what the numbers are. What happens if the CFL said, screw it, we're going to keep going Thursday nights. It's one NFL game we're going up against here, or even Sunday night football. Maybe not that one as much, but the Thursday night NFL games last year were garbage. Like, so many of them were awful football.
I don't think it's the CFL. I think it's TSN. That would be your biggest hurdle because TSN plays all those Thursday night games, right? So, and Sunday games and Monday night games. So I think that's the biggest thing.
So now let's say the TSN CFL TV deal ends and Sportsnet or some other party gets in on it a little bit. Do we see one of them try to, maybe push to go head to head with it, or you still think that's a death trap? The CFL has done a great job with its TV ratings so far this year with the Thursday night and Sunday night games, but now you are kind of going up against this behemoth in the NFL.
90 of the top 100 highest rated programs in of 2022 with NFL games, Ryan. Something like that. Something stupid stat. Like it's maybe I'm not completely accurate, but it's something ridiculous like that. We're very like way over 50% of the highest rated TV shows of anything is NFL. And like regular Sunday night games beat NBA playoff or finals and playoffs and stuff, right? So I don't know. Like I just think it's suicide doing that, man. Like it just I don't care. The only company, the TV station that could see being ballsy enough to do it would be CBC, because they're like, oh, we don't care. We're nationally funded. We're federally funded. We don't care. But even them, I don't know. Like, I don't think so. Unless maybe 12. Like, unless you did 12 on Sunday. That's the only, because I think they've done that a few times. I feel like on the recent history, there's always like a Montreal host a game on 12 on Sunday when the NFL was on. So
yeah, we've seen that a couple of times.
Yeah. But hey, they've literally moved the playoffs to Saturdays now too, right? So
I guess if you're going to move the playoffs to Saturday, like if you're going to move your biggest game to Saturday and you're worried about that, right, then
yeah,
then that's tough competing. Yeah, I think you're probably right on that. So that's how we get these triple header Saturdays, and that's how we get into the first of these three matchups, which is the Alouettes facing the Argos. I guess where do we want to go first with the storylines for this one? I mean, these are the top two teams in the East Division going head to head. I believe Toronto can clinch a playoff spot this week, and facing Montreal, seemingly probably the one team that's most likely to catch them if anything goes wrong. Could the Argos, be putting away the division pretty early here, like we kind of talked about earlier on? It looked dicey for a bit there, where maybe Montreal was going to catch them, but
I think this is Toronto's division. Like, I think it's going to take something catastrophic, like Kelly or Olette or someone going down like that, and then majorly going down too. I think. And again, I would never wish for an injury, but if there's going to be a time for an injury, I think Kelly should go down now. So he's back for October or November kind of thing. But no, I think this is their division as long as they all stay healthy. I don't think Montreal. No, I can't imagine Montreal, and I can't see the other two teams catching them at this point now. But yeah, what do you think? Like, I think this is Toronto's team, right? Like, or Toronto's division now.
I think so. I think the big thing with the struggle with Montreal is their 5 losses this year. I believe those have all come against Toronto, BC, and Winnipeg. 2 losses to Winnipeg, 2 losses to BC, 1 to Toronto so far. So I know Mike and I have talked about this. What are the top tiers of teams in the CFL? Who's all in there? On our bonus drive home call-in show in the Discord. And I think Montreal, it's really hard to put them in there because they can't beat any of the teams ahead of them in the standings. So, they'll do fine against Hamilton and Ottawa in those matchups and etc. But when it comes time to face Toronto, that's when they've struggled so far this year. So I think that's probably a big reason we get to, what the betting line is, which is minus 10.5 here, which we'll make our picks for it later. But, for 2 top teams in the division, it's quite the difference that's quite the heavy favorites in this matchup.
Oh, for sure. And I wonder too, how much do you think? Because I buy into a lot teams getting momentum and stuff. So I almost subscribe to the fact having buys late in the season might be a negative. And now does Toronto have all theirs done?
Yeah,
yeah. So that's what I mean. They got 9 straight games now, or 8 straight games. No time off until maybe probably a playoff bye. Like, I think they're going to continue to get hot. And like I said, I think their only worry is injuries. So, and yeah, that line, like I kind of saw that and I was like, ooh, that's a big one. Like, it's crazy because Montreal's not terrible, terrible team. I put them like a higher team in that second tier, like we were talking about. But yeah.
Well, I think you're right with injuries, and I don't even know where the injuries is going to cause the downfall necessarily for Toronto outside of Chad Kelly, because Andrew Harris can fill in pretty good if AJ Olette goes down. Wide receivers, I've said this all along, none of the Argos receivers are superstars necessarily, right? Like, they're all like solid players. but none of them has necessarily jumped out as a top 5 receiver in the CFL this season. I thought maybe Curly Gittens Jr. would be that this year, and he's been kind of underwhelming at times. And that's just because they've spread the ball around so much, and you never really know, is it Tavares Daniels, is it Devontae Coxey, Cam Phillips, Curly Gittens Jr., et cetera, et cetera. They've got a pretty good supporting cast of receivers across the board. It's fascinating that this team is this good, though, and, has allowed so few points on the board. I think they've allowed the least in the league. Granted, they've played at least one less game than everybody else. So, they're probably close to Winnipeg, BC, and Montreal. But this is a team that has zero pass defense. Like every team has found success passing. They give up, I think, over 300 passing yards a game, and yet still finds a way to blow teams out of the water. And they've done that, like I said, with not many superstars, just a ton of really good players. So, and they've got a lot of great depth there too. So, yeah, I have a hard time finding a flaw in this Argos team. Well, I found that flaw. It's the passing defense. But if anyone can overcome that, it seems like it's them. So, I'm always worried, though. I'm always worried one of these days it's going to break, right? And that's the same gut feeling I've had with the Bombers for years. This is a stellar football team, but it had that hole of that bend but don't break defense that you just know it was going to break at the worst possible times, and something's going to go wrong. And I kind of still have that worry for Toronto all the time here, where the offense is not going to be able to overcome that one of these weeks. And so keep buying that time, I guess, on that. And they face a good defense in Montreal this week, so we'll see if they can.
Do you have any thoughts on Fajardo real quick before we move on? I don't know, because I've been so high on him, but I don't know. He got 300 yards. I'll give him that. That's a nice milestone in a game. But 2 picks is, unless you're Zach Collaros, not many quarterbacks are going to win after throwing 2 picks in a game, right? So,
well, and we had a discussion in the Discord this week because you so kindly wanted to remind us all about who you put as your top quarterback coming into the year, Chad Kelly. Kudos on that, 100%. But we started talking and reviewing who we put in our top 5 quarterback lists and trying to re-rank them now. And to me, it's pretty easy to put the top 3 as Kelly, VA, and Collaros. And I could be convinced of different ordering on some of that, but I think Kelly's clearly number 1 right now. And then I struggle, who do you put in at 4? Who do you put in at 5? I thought maybe like a Trey Ford, Dustin Crum in there. I know you and Adam had mentioned Fajardo a little bit. He's not in my top 5 right now, and it's just the inconsistency to put the points on the board, I think, is where he's struggling most. He has more games this year without touchdown passes than with them. I think he's got 4 games with TDs and 5 games without. So, that's long stretches where your offense isn't putting the points on the board. And it's honestly a similar knock I had against Trevor Harris for the past couple of years, where he can be a great quarterback and lead you to a big day. But more often than not, he's going to give you yardage, but not points. So I think I need to see more consistency across the board from Fajardo. I think he's still the best quarterback on the team. I'm not going to Caleb Evans quite yet, but he's got to find some consistency there.
No, I agree with that. I was just hoping to God that he went and performed well in Montreal, so it could just be Saskatchewan's fault. But it's not doing that. And right now, yeah, Chad Kelly has he's leading in quarterbacks the average yards per completed pass at 11. So there we go.
Yeah.
He's just got to catch up on the games, I think, and then his stats will come back, right? I think that's why his stats are a little lower, because he's had the 3 less games. 2 less games.
Yeah, exactly. He's lit it up in every game, but he's only played 10 so far. Every other team has at least 11, and teams like Winnipeg and BC, the other quarterbacks to put in the conversation, have played 12. So, granted, Collaros and VA did both miss a little bit of time, so that evens it out there a little bit, but no, hopefully on the Argos side that Kelly can stay healthy here. And for Montreal, yeah, the big story is kind of what we talked about already. Got to find a way to play up to your opponent's level, right? And get it done against the top tier team there. Let's talk fantasy picks in this game. Well, Chad Kelly has been so good this year that you might even say last week's 20.7 per fantasy point performance was a letdown because they put up points in bunches. He's registered 3 at plus touchdowns in 5 of his last 7 games, both ground and air combined. And when they faced Montreal in week 6, he put up 31.3 fantasy points. So they do have a good pass defense. They could force a couple turnovers. He's turned the ball over a little bit recently, but they do struggle against the top teams. So I think Chad Kelly is in line for another high-scoring week. He comes in at a price of $13,500. Other Argo I like in this matchup is AJ Ouellette at 12,000. He's had 12 plus carries and 70 plus yards in 7 of 10 games so far this year. Very consistent. He's lacked in the touchdown department. No rushing touchdowns since week 4 for AJ Ouellette. Oddly enough, he passed for a touchdown last week, though, which did count towards the fantasy stats. Side note, last week, made me go and have to go update my whole scoring system in my charts because 2 offensive players threw for touchdowns in AJ Ouellette and Kyron Moore, and then Tyler Snead threw a pass that didn't go for a touchdown yet too. So I had to add passing yards in and touchdowns for those guys. But yeah, Ouellette, touchdowns have lacked, passing volume not quite there. But I think there's something to be said about a running back who just gets such a consistent workload and such a solid floor that with a great matchup against Montreal, they gave up 14 per game to running back, second worst in the CFL. There's room for improvement, and maybe Ouellette does get that touchdown that makes his total even better. 2 names on the Montreal side, and then I'll go over to you here as well. I like 2 of their wide receivers. I like Tyler Snead at 6,500, left slot back against the Argos. Book it every single week. Snead is starting to become a critical piece of this Alouettes offense. 7 catches on 9 targets from last week. And last time he played the Argos, he had 3 touchdowns. So Montreal's got 10 passing touchdowns on the year. Tyler Snead has caught 5 of them, so it's half of the team's offensive scoring through the air. He also dropped like $3,000 in price from last week. So, that's a pretty solid value play at 6,500. And you know my rule, left slot back against the Argos always pays off because it's the best wide receiver matchup across the league of all positions. And then Austin Mack at 12,100, just based on the sheer volume of targets. 11 targets and 7 catches averaged in his last 3 games. Also has over 100 receiving yards in 3 of his last 5. And just 1 game below 10 points on the year. So you're always getting a solid total with Mack. And you have a pretty good chance of him delivering a high-end total on top of it as well, which is why I'm sick of Mike having him in his fantasy lineup in our draft league every single week because I can't catch him. Those are kind of the names I'm looking at. I did think about Fajardo, to be honest, just against this Argos passing defense, but I think there are other quarterbacks at a similar price I like better. Either side, I know the Argos are your team quite often. You got any guys in this one?
Yeah, I got Mr. Thor there. Hopefully he has a hammer again this weekend. Ouellette passing for some touchdowns. I actually changed some things up, so I don't have Kelly in right now. I took a price dip on another quarterback. You convinced me on the last game. You talked about Powell, so you convinced me, so I went that route. But I'm going to take the Argos defense. I know we don't really talk much about defense. I know there's that debate. Is it even worth it? In this league and everything, but I don't see Fajardo doing too much in this one, so especially points wise, which we'll talk about maybe in the betting coming up here. But that's kind of where I got, and I got nobody on Montreal. They've been a team I've rarely stayed away from this year in fantasy. Like I don't know who, I know you mentioned a couple guys, but I just have found they don't fit into my lineup.
Yeah, it's tough. And you got 3 wide receivers tops, right? Or 3 running backs tops. Not a lot of room each week, especially with some good options available in some games. Kind of limits you as much as maybe you want some guys. There's better options out there at times. All right, betting in this game, interesting big line. You know I don't like those. What do you think?
Oh boy, yeah, I don't really like them either. But I'm going. So yeah, we're sitting at 10.5. In the Argos' favor. Games at BMO Saturday. I'm gonna take the Argos. I don't think this is going to be a game they completely blow out, but it's going to be one of those games that seems close, but then they'll get a pick six or a late touchdown or something and put it over that. And I'm actually going to take the I don't know. Under. I'll take the under because even if they win, like, say, 25-14, right? That's only 39 points. Yeah, right? So yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. What do Argos and under? And what do you like?
I don't like anything really. Is
I don't think
is that a fair answer?
A big over under and a big spread.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't love that. I think I will also, I'm going to go Montreal actually on this one with the big spread. I know they haven't performed great against these top tier teams, but I feel like over the past couple of years, Toronto Montreal has always had some weird games where you think one team's favored and the other will come back. And, they played a game earlier this year where the Argos won that one by 8. So I'm also going to, normally I wouldn't take this an over on this big total, but it's something about the Argos offense is elite, and their defense also seems to give up a lot of points. I mean, their last 3 games, we're looking at 41-28 over the Ticats, 39-31 over Calgary, and 44-31 against Ottawa. So these are 3 offenses that haven't really produced a ton this year that still put 30 plus points against the Argos defense. So I think I want to take the over here.
Oh yeah, that's a big spread. Making good points. I'll keep it the way I have. We'll be different, and we'll go with that.
All right, sounds good. We'll see who's right on that one. I had a better week finally last week, by the way. I think I got 2 or 3 right in both categories. Much better than 0-8.
I gotta catch up on the standings again.
You really don't. I don't think people need to see
how
I'm doing overall.
Yeah. This has been an off year for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, send them privately to Adam so he can celebrate how well he's doing. But all right, third game of the week. It's the Banjo Bowl. Riders coming to Winnipeg for the rematch Labor Day weekend, and I think he's got it ready to go. Now there's Gainer. Trey's dangling stuffed Gainer to go for. I thought you were getting the banjo out.
It's somewhere. I don't know where it is. The baby got a hold of it. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
But the kids know to punch the gopher too, so it's all good.
Raising them well, Trey.
Always. If you see this in the parking lot, it's hanging from a tree. No, we actually don't park by a tree no more. We used to park by a tree in front of the soccer center, but then my uncle moved. Now there's no tree. I don't know where I'm going to hang him from. Interesting. I have a dilemma now I got to think about for the next couple days.
If that's your biggest problem, I think things are going all right. Banjo Bowl matchup between these two teams. I mean, when they went to overtime on Labor Day Sunday, great game there. Riders take that one in OT. I think all of the talk coming out of that one, though, was probably around the Pete Robertson headbutt on Zach Collaros. He earns a 1-game suspension for the Banjo Bowl there. Where do you weigh in on that whole situation?
The thing that amazes me the most, people defending it. Like, it's just so ridiculous. Like, and you compare it. Okay, the only thing I can compare it to, the one argument I've seen was a few years ago when Andrew Harris pretty much started a brawl in the end zone and nothing happened to him. That comparison I can understand. But the difference was that's Andrew Harris fighting some defensive player who neither position have any extra protection in football, where this is what the 2-time reigning MOP quarterback. Like you can't headbutt the quarterback when what the head ref and the other ref is right there, and they didn't even call it initially, right? Or did they?
No, it was a very delayed flag, and I think
Yeah,
maybe the command center called it.
yeah. So and then I don't know. That my problem is with the justifying it. That like to me, this was a problem. Like, if you want to say, oh, football, like this isn't like to me. I really hate the roughing the passers in between the whistles, but this is after the whistle. I get maybe I don't know how malicious it was. Like maybe he just got excited and Caleros was getting in the face of guys too, right? You saw that a couple times in the broadcast. So I don't know if the guy just came in a little hot and got maybe a little bit more in the face of Caleros than he thought. And I give people somewhat of the benefit, but I don't know. I how do you defend it? Like I don't get it. How does somebody that's paid to do play-by-play for a team in this league defend it? Like I don't understand. I'm just like I literally don't tweet at him just because I don't want him to block me because I want to see the absurd things he tweets about. If we all know who I'm talking about, but like so that's why like when people show that they're blocked, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to. I keep checking because I don't want to accidentally be blocked because I want to see the stupid things he says. And one game to me, I think the one game is absurd. I think the one game suspensions for his safety. He's not, and now he doesn't have to travel to Winnipeg where everybody's going to know his name. Everyone's going to know his face. He's not going to be able to stay at a hotel. The second he comes off the airplane, his luggage is going to be gone. You know what I mean? You're coming to Winnipeg, the worst week for Regina to come to Winnipeg. And now the suspend, like that. I think that's the kind of where I'm at. It was for him more than sending a message.
I'm clipping this and sending it to him on Twitter.
I never said his name, so prove who I'm talking about. I don't know.
I wonder.
But you know, like is that? I was actually really dreading Adam being here and trying to defend it. Just
well, Adam is in the chat. He couldn't make it
and I'm not
to the
saying
show.
I don't know because I was like, is he gonna pull the Ryder move and just defend it?
No,
and I'm like, I don't know.
Adam himself agreed with it. I mean, we had our live game chat going in the Discord, and I watched the game a little bit late, so I didn't get to weigh in until afterwards, but I gave my post-game thoughts. And basically every second one of my post-game thoughts was Pete Robertson, what the heck are you doing with the headbutt there along those lines? And I think it was a boneheaded move. It was obviously a dangerous situation. There's no real place for that in football, I would say. Right? Like keep it classy. I get it's a heated moment, and part of it, I wonder, was he trying to just kind of get all up in the grill and accidentally took it one step too far that even he wanted to do? Yeah, okay, I could potentially see that a little bit. But you could tell his teammates even knew how stupid it was to take a play there. Micah Johnson's reaction when he saw what just happened, because that very well could have cost the Riders the game. And this is a pretty solid defensive lineman. Pete Robertson is. I think there's a situation where if they lose that game, he's not even on the bus to Winnipeg, not because he's suspended, but because he's cut by the team. And I would imagine Craig Dickinson probably would have the leash for him there and say, oh, he'll grow from it. But, that's almost a thing where against your bitter rival, you cost a game on a stupid hot-headed penalty like that. Like, that's worth a benching to me from the team potentially. I'm a bit surprised actually it was suspended. I was predicting, a flag, a fine, a max fine, and a benching by the team, if anything. Just based on what we've seen from other suspensions around the league. I get why it's a one-game suspension. I agree it is. I'm just actually surprised that they gave him one. And the interesting thing, they gave him one so quick, right? Like normally they wait till midweek. They have their calls then. It was in the middle of the Labor Day games on Monday.
Yeah.
That was announced.
Because Dickinson didn't sound like, I thought he was kind of defending his player too. So I wonder if that's where the CFL was like, oh, well, if you're not going to bench him, we will, And again, coming back, I bet if he didn't play Winnipeg this weekend, it could have been different too. But Do you feel I know we're going to talk about this week's game, but I guess it ties in. Do you feel the refs put the whistles away a little bit and the flags away a little bit on Sunday? And should they in a Labor Day? Like, this isn't playoffs where rules change. This is still regular season, right?
I don't think even in the playoffs that the rules should change, right? Like, what's
Well,
the
I know
point of a rule book if it's selectively
you're right,
being
but you get
applied?
most sports the rules
Oh,
the
100%.
lines change in the playoffs, but I really don't like it in regular season with a rivalry game, right? And I get these two teams, and it's great though when one team was 5-5 and the other's 9-1, and they're still playing each other like both teams are undefeated, right? It's good to see, but I don't know, like the rest of it, I felt like we're looking at each other, and there was a couple catches that seemed to not be looked at that might have been, and I just wonder that I don't know. What did you see that too, or was that just me looking for things?
I don't know if I saw it that much. I mean, I saw this game was scrappy, and I think it's going to be ugly on Saturday at the Banjo Bowl. Like, I think we're going to see several scraps in that game, and I think you're right that Pete Robertson, sitting out the Banjo Bowl as his 1 game suspension, I don't think is necessarily a coincidence there, because maybe they're trying to prevent the brawl from happening. It's still going to happen anyways. These teams hate each other. They're bitter rivals. You had bad blood last week. That wasn't the only thing. Like, second or third play of the game, I feel like they were scrapping already, both sides in this one. So,
Like I said, you don't see very much emotion out of Claros, right? And he was in the guy's face before that headbutt, right?
yeah.
He's not Strevler who screams at guys when he is running down the sideline or whatever, right? Like he's a more composed guy, and he was feeling it, which is fun to say when he used to play for the Riders, right? So
In terms of other storylines in this game, I mean, on the Winnipeg side, two big things. One is the Bombers need Janarian Grant back so quick, which is unfortunate that I just got the thing you sent me from Derek Taylor earlier on in the show that he's going to be on the injured list until October. And they've now moved Greg McCrae to the practice roster, which, yeah, I kind of agree with that decision a little bit, because I don't think he should be back there returning another punt this season. Every second punt, he fumbles it. They put Jamal Parker in last game. He didn't seem like he could break a tackle. Maybe they're going to give him another opportunity this week. But I feel like the return game for the Bombers is just nosedived off a cliff here. And that kind of led to terrible field position for a lot of their starts last week, which leads to my second point of better offensive game plan from Buck Pierce, please. I don't think the chuck it downfield every play until you hit a long bomb is an effective offensive game plan. When you hit it, it's great, and that will potentially lead to a touchdown for you. But this is kind of what we saw from Michael Riley in his final year in BC, which didn't end up that great either, where it was, I'm not even going to worry about these short runs. I'm just going to huck it downfield. I don't think Collaros completed a pass in the first quarter in that football game last week because he was trying to hit it 30-plus yards every time, and the Riders were defending that. So Buck Pierce is a good offensive coordinator. I think he has his up and down games, but you have to think he's going to get a little more creative this time around, and we'll see what he brings this week for the offensive game plan there. I don't know. What do you think about that? I know you're critical. You got the whiteboard out a lot of times more on the defensive side of the ball, but what do you think of the offensive game plan?
Oh, man. Apparently, I got to keep it G-rated when I'm talking about Collaros now. I don't know. It's crazy because in the league, if you look at maybe don't like pure talent, the Bombers should have the best receiving core in the league, if not top 2 or 3, right? And they have probably one of the best running backs in the league. They probably have a guy in the backup who could be a starter outright somewhere else. Their O-line is, I think their O-line's a big thing, and I'm not high on Collaros anymore at all. I never really was. So I don't know. I don't know. They're missing some kind of fire. I think the fire that they used to get when Harris would get a touchdown, jump on the stands, and Hardrick and them are pretending to slam. Like they're just missing that little bit of edge, and I don't know if it came with 3 straight Grey Cup appearances. I don't know if it's come with age. I don't know if that, you know what I mean? I don't know what they're missing, but it just seems like they're not firing all the same way as they have been over the last 3 seasons.
Oh, it's been so long since I've done one of those.
Okay, because after last show, when I messed around with my computer, I thought maybe I did something.
No, that one was me. He threw me off because Adam finally decided to show up 55 minutes into the show. So perfect timing. Adam, hello. How are you?
That's a big fine for showing up to practice late, man.
Hey, we're talking about practice. not a game. Not a game. We're talking about practice.
How are you doing tonight, Adam?
Well, it got a little tough there, so I finally got to shut down with the combine. So, yeah, not bad. But had to come on because, Trey here was going and saying how I'm going to be wearing my green hat and saying how good Pete Robertson is and how this is an unjustified suspension. No, the suspension was well justified. I mean, let's face it, you just can't go and do stupid things like that. To me, I would have almost given the team the option to go and do the suspension first because that almost cost you the game against the Bombers. But what I didn't like about the whole thing, and I'm not going to defend Pete Robertson's actions. I mean, he knows he screwed up. But what I'm going to throw my defense on is, come on, Winnipeg, stop crying all day for a suspension. I heard Caleros cry for it. I heard O'Shea cry for it. I heard half the team cry for it. The social media team was crying for it. You're a better organization than that. You don't need to cry for suspension.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Still, no crying for suspensions. I mean, that just sets a bad precedence for the rest of the league. I mean, this isn't the first time that Caleros cried for a suspension. I mean, even the game against Edmonton, he had a few words for the guy that hit him there, and he was upset about it, and he wanted something done. This one here, like I say, Winnipeg, no, don't cry about that. You've done things just as bad on things. But again, let's face it, you see Adam Bighill leading with his head on every short yardage play.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I mean, come on.
The benefit of being the Canadian Mafia, man.
Yeah, that's the problem, though. I mean, they're getting the benefit of the 3 Grey Cup appearances, doubt the 2 wins. And it's
I just don't think saying, look, you're right, 100% right. I just hate the crowd that was saying, oh, it's nothing because of other stuff. That's what I don't like.
No.
And that's what I was
meaning. Whataboutisms, yeah. The whataboutisms, no. I mean, you know what? We all remember Craig Butler taking Buck Pierce's head off in the one Banjo Bowl. No call. Yeah. Just a huge hit.
But what about Simone Lawrence, right?
Was it last year with Andrew Harris and Tavon Campbell and everybody pretty much like throwing down?
Yeah, the big brawl in the Banjo Bowl last year or the year before.
Yeah. So, I mean, and again, that one, no calls on it except for, I think, Micah Johnson for some reason got thrown out in that one. But like I said, I mean, you get them both ways. And I just don't like a team complaining to get a call. And almost they're begging for a call. Back in the day,
you've never met Winnipeg fans, though.
What's that?
I mean, that's sports fans.
It's like you've never seen Winnipeg
is one thing,
fans.
but when your organization and head coach and quarterback are doing it, that's a different thing.
Yeah. All I can say is
the fans are going to scream for everything. I mean, so far the highest I heard was Robertson for the season, Dickinson for 3 games, and a $250,000 fine.
I mean, a couple of ant farms in there too.
A couple of ant farms, exactly.
You know, all I'll say on that is that I completely forgot what I was going to say on that. Actually, never mind.
Yeah. Like, again, Robertson, absolutely. He's got to get a suspension for it. I get it. You can't go up to a guy. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a vicious player. I don't think he meant to really nail Caleros and completely knock him, like, square in the head and knock him out. I don't think he did knock him out. He just knocked him to the ground. But nevertheless, I don't think Robertson's the player to do that. But when you do stupid things, you get stupid actions and you get stupid results. He deserved a suspension. He got his 1 game. Move on is what I think.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember what I was going to say. I can only imagine Simone Lawrence's mentions on Twitter got heavy usage again this week, as it does every time any sort of Riders-related suspension.
The sad part is, Ryan, he actually trended in Saskatchewan for a little while again.
Of course. Adam, before we move on to fantasy picks in this game, I mean, we talked about the Bombers side a little bit. I know you're a big Jake Dolegala truther. I know Mason Fine is starting to practice again, but Dolegala is still getting the time with the ones, which is quite understandable given the last couple of games. He lived up to the test last week. What are you expecting out of Dolegala in the rematch here coming into hostile territory?
Yeah, and you got to remember also Mason Fine is on the 6-game injured list, so he has to get reactivated if he actually is in there. Jeremy O'Day did add him to the 6-game, and Craig Dickinson brought it up in his interview today, saying it's not really up to me right now; it's up to Jo if he wants to bring him in for the early on a 6-game. So, yeah, Jake Dolegala had some very nice throws once in a while. He made a little bit of running, which I actually enjoyed. I didn't see him run very much before. Now he's starting to run a little bit. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Taylor Cornelius earlier, what we seen out of him at one time when he used to take off the ball against Saskatchewan. Yeah, I don't know why any other team he never did, but he did against Saskatchewan. Really, overall, I thought he did a good job managing what was in front of him. He didn't throw any picks. He made some good reads, made some good decisions. I just want to see him build on it. Again, maybe get that second read out there. I know that they said he was staring down guys once in a while, and you got a guy like DeMario Houston on the other side of the football that likes to catch on to that. So he'll be looking at it in the film room. So will Houston. So will Dolegala. So it'll be interesting to see what they change up for the game here on Saturday. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I mean, see Trey cry twice, that would make my day.
Every night before bed, man, I let out a good cry. Hard world we live in, so.
Yeah, especially when you live in Winnipeg. I mean,
Oh,
that's as hard as it gets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Love it. Love the trash talk, guys. Yeah, we'll see what Dolegala can do. I'll give him his credit. I've been hard on him, but he delivered when it mattered most in the late game there for the Riders last game out. So see what he does again this time. Fantasy players to watch. Unfortunately, Dolegala does not make my list this week because I do like some of the other options better. And this was a hard game to pick fantasy players for because you could see a scenario where it swings entirely the opposite direction and maybe the game's a blowout. You could see a case where it's close again, where the Bombers suddenly have this letdown at home. Like anything can happen on Labor Day in the Banjo Bowl. But a couple of players I do like in this game. I mean, Brady Oliveira has been so consistent this year. 20-plus fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. He's averaged just under 15 carries a game in his last 6 as well, and 7 touchdowns in his last 5 games. So not only is he getting the volume, he's getting the touchdown production that we have not seen from Oliveira until we didn't see it early this season. We didn't see it last year, and that's a game changer there for him. So I think he's a top running back play once again. Also really like Nick Dembski again at wide receiver as well. He continues to have pretty solid production there. And like I talked about last week, he always has his best games against Saskatchewan. He did last week too. 8 targets, his highest target share of the season, 118 yards last week for Nick Dembski in that game. He comes in at $1,300 as well. So he is expensive. But 15 plus fantasy points in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of your last 7 games. Yeah, that's pretty solid production there from Dembski as well. And on the Riders side, I will throw in Tevin Jones at $12,000 here because he seems to like having big games against the Bombers. 21.1 and 14.6 fantasy points in those 2 games. He also seems to get a large target share on this team with 7 or more targets in every game but 2 of them so far this season. So if Dolegala continues to, improve as a passer here and can put up a solid day passing there and maybe a couple of touchdowns, I think it's a possibility Jones has himself a solid day as well. So they're higher priced, makes me a little less likely to put these receivers in my lineup, perhaps. Just because, again, I'm nervous about this Banjo Bowl matchup with not knowing what direction it will go. But these are players I think will still have solid days. Adam, what about you?
I've got, I was debating between Dolegala and Powell. I think I've switched that out now. It'd definitely be Taylor Powell, just because I think he has a better opportunity to maybe get a few more points. Not saying that Jake Dolegala didn't have a good game for me last time. But the only other player that I've got that you don't have in your list right now is Sean Bain Jr. I do like his option for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He seems to have a little bit better of a game each time. And I don't know why. He had a decent game last time against Winnipeg. I think that he'll probably have another good game here against Winnipeg in the Banjo Bowl. Other than that, yeah, I've got Nick Dembski right now. I had Brady Oliveira last week. I might pick up Oliveira, but definitely I'm going to pick up Nick Dembski. He's going to look for a big game here next week or this weekend here against the Riders. Trey?
What's that, Gainer? Oh, yeah, Gainer tells me to take Brady Oliveira. That's what we got, because he knows he's going to run for a boatload through that defense where you're missing a player on the defensive line. So.
Yeah, that could be a big impact there as well. I
Very
don't
well
think
said.
Oliveira.
What smart Alec comment did you have?
Me?
Yeah.
No, he's a big piece. Yeah.
Okay.
He definitely could be a big factor. But don't forget, we also have Demarius Christmas right behind him. So if he plays well, it could be an early holiday for the Rough Riders.
I was going to say, is he related to Floyd Christmas?
I think St. Nicholas, some guy. I don't know.
Yeah, Oliveira, I don't think quite hit 1,000 yards on the season last week. I think he came like 10 yards short, so we'll see if he can do that in this matchup here again. Betting odds for this game. What do we got?
Oh, we got, the odd makers, they don't do many things right, but they did this one right. They didn't get all over worried about last week and this and that and go off the deep end. They still keep the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at -8.5 favorites, over under 48. What's that, Keener? Oh, take the Bombers and the over? Okay, we're going to take the Bombers and the over, because I'll tell you right now, the Bombers are going to score 40 of that 48 right now, and the Riders can get a touchdown and a rouge. I'm sure your team's capable of that, Adam, right? So we'll go with that. And we'll go with Adam first, so then he can make it a tie, and then Ryan can break it.
Yep, pretty much, because I've got two other rodents right beside me. There's a black kind of birdie looking thing on this side and this side that are telling me that don't go with the Bombers. At least go with this week. Last week I picked Saskatchewan. I picked them outright to win, if you all remember that. Yeah, I just thought I'd brag that one up.
I know.
Anyways, I'm not going to go with Saskatchewan to win outright. I'm going to go with them to cover on this one here, but I think it's under 8.5. So I'm going to go with the Riders on this one, and I'm going to go with the. Ooh, this is going to be a challenge. Yeah, I'm going to go with the under on this one here. Riders are going to get a little bit more of a pressure here from Winnipeg. Not probably going to score as many points, and unless, again, if Oliveira has just a massive day, which he very well could, this game might not be that big of a score. So, yeah, I'll go Saskatchewan the under on this one. Ryan?
Well, I guess we'll make it homer picks across the board, even though I'm the least biased person on this podcast in general. I am going to take the Bombers, and I think my big reason for that is obviously they're pretty upset about how things went last week, and I wasn't a fan of Buck Pierce's game plan. And whenever he has a bad game plan, he follows it up with some creativity the following week, and I think that's going to be a good thing here for the Bombers. The line makes me nervous, but I don't know. It's something about Winnipeg at home. If they win, if the Bombers win, generally they're able to put a game away in the fourth quarter and run the clock down with a solid lead. So I think I'm going to take Winnipeg to cover the spread. Over and under, I think I will take the over on this one. I think it could be another high-scoring game.
I just wanted to also mention that the big stat also to remember in this game, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are right now 0-2 against third-string quarterbacks. Just thought I'd make sure to mention that.
Yeah, what is everybody else's record? Because every team's using their third-string quarterbacks right now, so pretty much, right?
Yeah, except for you guys didn't get to play Taylor Powell. Some of them are on the backups only.
I would have. I mean, we got to play Bo Levi Mitchell. That's Taylor. I'm glad that we didn't get to. I'm glad we didn't have to play Taylor Powell. So.
Fair enough.
All right, fourth game of the week. It's the Stampeders and the Edmonton Elks rematch of the Battle of Alberta from last week, from this Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. on Saturday to complete the triple header. I think the big storyline is the ending to last game between these two teams, where it seemed like Edmonton was in the driver's seat and they were going to win the Labor Day Classic and they were going to pull ahead of the Stamps in the standings. And last minute, here comes Jake Maier, not looking great in the first half. Real strong fourth quarter to end this one off. Adam, what do you think here? What's your big storyline in this rematch between both sides here?
Well, I think it's going to be if Edmonton can actually recover from that kind of. Let's face it, it's never easy to recover from a loss like that because Edmonton there had the game going for them. They had everything going right. Dr. Trey Ford there had some movement. He had the corners, it seemed like. All of a sudden, I think what really happened in that one, Calgary eventually just said, no, okay, you're not getting the corners anymore to run in. And Trey Ford had to stand back and actually try to make some passes. I know our resident Elks fan, Josh, over in our Discord was talking about that quite a bit, that he thought Trey Ford kind of went down after that. But was it Trey Ford or was it the change of the defense, or I'm not sure what exactly caused it, but I'm sure this week I'm going to be watching for if Jake Maier maybe has a little more confidence after coming back and winning a game. He looked like he was getting some more confidence with some of his other receivers that aren't named Reggie Bagleton. Luther Economou got a few nice catches in that game. If you took a look at my brain just went and had a fart, sorry. Markham Michelle had a decent game like he's been having for the Calgary Stampeders. Even Markeith Ambles had a few catches and a few receptions in that game. So he's starting to get a little more confident, it seems like, with some of his receivers. If you're Jake Maier, do you really need to keep an eye on trying to get your big guys open or just kind of keep this spread around the ball kind of thing working, Trey?
See, I don't. You kind of asked at one point. I wouldn't blame the loss on Trey Ford. I give credit that Calgary made I think coaching won. I think coaching won this one where they made the halftime adjustments. And, if you look at the coaching staffs, I'm going to give a big edge to Calgary over who's the head coach in Edmonton again? We never talk about that guy, right? So I definitely give that to the coaching staff. And even though Mayor's new, a lot of that team is still kind of that same mentality of Calgary. They've been there, they've done it. They're a franchise to fear, where Edmonton, they got their first win 2 weeks ago, or something like that. So I think I could see Edmonton winning this one. I could definitely see them coming back and winning this one. And because I don't have faith in Maier. Mayor's in that same category where Ryan and I were talking about Fajardo and maybe Trevor Harris, and a couple of guys we don't necessarily have faith in. Ryan, do you have faith in Maier?
I mean, I did coming into the year. I put him as my number 2 quarterback in the CFL, right? Now it's a little more dicey. It's up and down. I think he has the ability to put together big games, and he's kind of, in that same category that I put Fajardo in. I'd put Trevor Harris in at times, etc. Of streaky quarterbacks who will have one game with 350 yards and then 4 games under 200. Right? And you never really know what you're going to get from Maier. So I struggle where to put that in. I still believe in him. Like, he has that potential. He's just got to find the consistency in order to get it done. But, Calgary's fallen short a couple of times late game this year. So it's nice to see them get one done late.
Yeah, absolutely. Over on the Edmonton side of the football, another receiver that's really have woken up in the last few games here has been Stephen Dunbar Jr. Every time I watch an Edmonton Elks game, it seems like he's getting the majority of the passes towards him, which really changed up, I guess, right after the demotion of Stephen McAdoo. So, that's one thing I've seen over on the Edmonton side of the football. But I think on the Edmonton side of the football, what it really comes down to is, can this defensive line keep up their really good pace right now? Jake Serezna has had a good little bit of the season here. In the last little bit has really been sharp. Ely as well has really come on in the last little bit as well for the Edmonton Elks. Really, what does the defensive line need to do to change things up, or what did you guys see out of the Edmonton Elks D-line that could give Jake Maier a little bit of a problem this week?
I mean, they've been making plays happen, right? Like we always knew a Chris Jones defense would be able to get things together eventually, right? Like he as much as we want to talk about his antics, he's a good defensive coach, and they find ways to get it done, and that's that pressure on the quarterback. That is a big proponent of that. So I think you got to just keep doing what you're doing, and if your offense can keep producing, like over the long run, like the Elks in general are going to be better because the defense is going to have less time out there on the field, and they're going to get less tired in the second half, and start getting and be able to shut teams down in the second half there as well. Again, you got to make those adjustments that Trey was talking about earlier as well. I do want to touch on the Dunbar thing you mentioned though, because I was looking at because I was thinking the same thing as you were, that he has been an integral part of the offense, and I was wondering if he's a good fantasy pick this week. I think the reason we think he's so involved is because he's got 4 touchdowns in his last 3 games. 2 of his last 3 games, he had 2 touchdowns each. But he's only actually had 4 targets a game in his past 3 games. So, I mean, Trey Ford doesn't throw the ball a whole ton in general. It just happens to be when they're near the goal line and he's looking in Dunbar's direction, or Kyron Moore is looking in his direction due to wacky trick plays. Yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on the Elks defense and Dunbar. Anything on either of those for you, Trey?
I hit a wall. I got to be up in pretty early for school tomorrow. So I'm sorry, guys. I agree with what you guys said. We'll go with that.
All right, sounds good. No problem at all.
I'll just quickly.
Oh, good. Kick him out. Get rid of him.
I think Adam's having connection issues a little bit. Keeps hopping.
There he is again.
Oh, it's because I'm on my cell phone and I'm trying to look up stats and a few other things while I'm talking. Sorry.
No bueno.
Biggest injury report that I could tell you about for guys that are interesting. I'll give you one for each of the teams. Dedrick Mills is limited in practice this week so far. I think it was a foot injury, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check that one. But the one, though, that's also interesting is over on the Edmonton side of the football. I just talked about the D-line, and I see AC Leonard did not practice today. So that's a big loss for the Edmonton Elks if he doesn't play. Neck injury, apparently, of some sort. It'll be very interesting to see how that one goes. I also see Lucas Purifoy was in the limited part of practice for today. We'll see where that goes as the week develops. But, the big one on the Edmonton side, I think, would be AC Leonard.
Yes, some big shoes to fill if those guys aren't able to go there as well. And I'm happy you mentioned Dedrick Mills being limited in practice, because that makes this even more exciting of a potential fantasy play this week, if we want to get there next. Kadeem Carey, last year's top running back in the CFL, facing the Elks defense that gives up by far the most to opposing running backs at 17.7 points per game. Kadeem Carey is just $6,700 in CFL fantasy this week. Super cheap. Now he's super cheap because he's been splitting the workload with Dedrick Mills the past couple of weeks. Last game, Carey had, in the 3 games since back from injury, he's had 7, 10, and 9 carries in there, and 2, 2, and 4 targets. So, it's not the full workload, but even then it's a decent workload. And if they're going to drop him in price that much, the matchup's good. Like Kadeem Carey, he has the talent. We obviously know that. So I think he is a very reasonable value play at running back when there aren't normally that many available. Stick with the value plays and go to wide receiver for Calgary. I like Markeith Ambles at 5,500 there as well. He's worked his way into a heavy target share for the Stamps offense, 7 and 10 targets in his last 2 games, and 14.6 points for Ambles last week against the Elks. They give up 11.1 on average to left slot backs. It's the position they give up the most to at wide receiver. So I think he's another good value play potential there, especially if Jake Maier can have a game like he did in the second half or in the fourth quarter there. And Trey Ford at $11,000 is really tempting to put in the lineup every single week because he's fun to watch. It's plain and simple. Like, for all the excitement Dustin Crum brought us in his first few starts, I think Ford has been even more exciting to watch with his running ability. 135 yards rushing for Ford last week against the Stamps. And he's put up 20-plus fantasy points in each of his 4 starts, despite no game over 15 completions and under 200 yards passing in 3 of his 4 games. Imagine if Trey Ford wants to become a passer on top of this yet, too. I think you got to keep strongly consider keep riding the hot hand of Trey Ford. What about you guys? Any fantasy options in this game for you, Trey?
I just have Richie Bagleton. I need another receiver, and that's where we're going with that. I feel like I play somebody. Do I play Adam again in one league?
Yeah, we both play Adam in separate leagues this week.
Oh, then I don't want to. You're not allowed to go back and watch this episode, Adam.
But I did.
He was here. He was listening.
Oh, right, you were. Oh, never mind.
I'm not editing it out. Adam, what about you?
The only guy I was looking at was Stephen Dunbar Jr., but then you kind of foo-fooed over that idea. So, I'm not really sure of anybody right now in this game that I'm really excited about. Although, if I do see Dietrich Mills hurt, and you telling me Kadeem Carey is really, really cheap, that's just a no-brainer. I got to take that one for sure. So,
and honestly, I'm strongly considering taking him, even if Mills isn't injured. The only thing is I like a lot of cheaper priced wide receivers and or quarterback, and guys like Oliveira and Butler at their higher prices are pretty tempting at running back, so that could steer me away from
so I gotta ask then, why not Jarrett Stern this week, Ryan? Because I did notice he was off your roster.
Yeah, I didn't put him in there this week because his price has gone up was the big thing. I think he's like $6,500 now, so you're looking about 9 fantasy points from him, and he's kind of towed the line a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but he's not the automatic lock it in, only good value play available, so to say, right? So that was the reason I switched up and did not have him in the list this week. I think I liked some other values better. But I think if he gets enough targets, he's probably close to value for you. So maybe an option to look at if you need to save some money there. All right, rematch from last week. Betting odds, what is it this time?
Edmonton, even though losing, kind of similar to the Blue Bombers, come into this one as a favorite. Only -2.5, though, according to those pesky odd makers. 48.5 is the over-under. I'm going to go with Edmonton. I can't imagine them losing this twice, especially with that line. Is the thing being weird? Anyway, and I will take the under. So, Adam, what do you got?
So when Edmonton wins this one, the Riders are going to be 3 games above them, above Calgary. That'll be awesome. Oh, wait, that also means Saskatchewan wins. I'll take it. Anyways, I'm going to go with the Elks in this one, namely because it has been a long time since I've seen them favored in Commonwealth Stadium. Brick Field. I'm going to go with the Elks. I think that they're going to win this one. They're going to be annoyed for losing last week and how it went down. The Elks, and give me the under on this one here because, till the fourth quarter, there wasn't very many points scored.
Ryan?
My heart says Edmonton. My head says Calgary. What do I want to go with? You know what? I've always traditionally had a rule of if it's a home and home series, take it to split because that seems more common than not. Edmonton was so close. They fell just short. Yeah, I'll ride with you guys and take the Elks to win this one as well. But do I want to take the over? Do I want to take the under? And take the over on it. I feel like we've had so much high-scoring football lately that I'm just tempted to keep taking the over on these games.
Yeah, no, I've been hitting the over a lot, but I feel like we're going to get colder weather, maybe a lot more running and stuff, but we'll see that. Man, we wouldn't know it. Did we not have plus 30 multiple days here the last few weeks?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Hey, one other one for you, Ryan. Kevin Brown, was there a reason why he was not on the list this week? I mean, he had a pretty good game last week against the Stampeders.
Yeah, he had some good rushes last week. I was just looking at Kevin Brown as option as well. I mean, 12 carries, 89 yards, 0 targets on the day, 0 catches there as well, right? So all of that amounted to 8.9 points, $10,000 running back. Yeah, he's, hovered around that 10-point category. He needs to get you 15 to be worth the price. I don't know. It wasn't so... I think it's a potentially safe play, but I don't think it's a big play necessarily. So I had enough other running backs on the list this week that I don't think I've got my eye on it. We should really, if I had time in my life, we should really just do like a fantasy mailbag bonus episode or something, and then Adam can just ask me about different players, and everybody could ask me about players. Fortunately, I don't have time in my life. Otherwise, I would do that. Busy guy. Lots going on. I've got all these NFL fantasy drafts I got to do as well. So
you're saying that's Ryan's fantasy?
Why did we let him back on when he showed up late?
I don't have control of that.
Yeah, that's my bad. Messed that one up. No, good joke. It's fine. Get the fine counter going again. All right, let's go over to our CFL Fantasy League matchups and results to end this off here before we get to wrapping this thing up. Our draft league, Adam redrafted his whole team last week, and you scored almost 4 times as many points as your old team did the week before. 67 points for Adam. You came in 3rd place last week there. Jake Dolagallo, your leading point scorer at 14.9 points. Just a decently consistent roster pretty much across the board. Trey, he did beat you by 2 points, but maybe some comfort for you that Keon Schaefer-Baker only gave him 3 on the week. Unfortunately, that may have been the 3 that put him over the top to beat you. 65.4 for you, Chad Kelly, with the big 20-point day, the leader on that one. Any thoughts on your week?
I just screwed up with my kicker, man. That's all. I think that was it. And I don't know why I thought he played for Montreal. Because I feel like Legio had some points this weekend. So
probably a couple, yeah. Mike finished in 3rd with 106.7 points. Trey Ford, Brady Oliveira, 23-point weeks. Austin Mack, 27.3. Kenny Lawler, Keon Hatchers. I'm so sick of Mike's lineup. I'm sick of Lawler, Hatcher, and Mack, and Oliveira at running back every week. Like, I had one of my best weeks yet and put up 109.5 and gained a whopping 3 points on Mike in the standings. So, I'm annoyed with him. I led the way this week. 29.6 from Vernon Adams, and Adam redrafted an entire team last week and missed this one guy who was my second leading point scorer of the week, Tim White, at 24.9. Very happy with that. That face, Adam. You don't look pleased.
I have no comment.
Overall standings on the year, Mike still leads the way. I'm about 51 points back. Trey, 160 or so back there. And Adam, you still got about 130 or 140 just to catch Trey. So keep going. You're making progress. You gained 2 points on him this week.
So I just like when Trey's not looking, going to eliminate his whole roster, at least have 1 week of chance to catch up.
But then you'll still only score 17 points and not make much of a dent. So,
boom, roasted.
Hey, that was old Adam. New Adam, double that.
New Adam with the goatee, eh?
Absolutely. New goatee, new attitude. We're gonna win this fantasy, yes.
All right, we'll see if you can make that comeback. CFL Podcast Fantasy League, the 3 of us playing against other podcast hosts in that one. I did win the Battle of the Ryans this week. Picked up a win there over Ryan from Go Stamps Go. Adam, you did beat Andrew from the Turf District by a couple of points there. Good win there for you. Trey, unfortunately, did fall to Oz from Rouge, White, and Blue this week in the matchups there. In terms of the overall standings, I'm still holding on to that first place, although a couple people are right on my tail, and you guys are sitting in 9th and 11th right now, so trying to work your way back into that final playoff spot. And one of you is getting a win this week because you are going head-to-head once again.
I noticed Trey's awful quiet all of a sudden. I mean, back the last time, all I heard was all about how Trey's so great and he's going to destroy me and he's going to just flat out murder me. So, I mean,
I am beyond tired. I'm beyond tired. I picked up working at the bar again. I stayed up till way too late over the weekend. I got kids now. I'm just beyond tired, man. Adam, no offense, but I have way more important things.
He's so confident he doesn't even know. He's too tired to even take me on a verbal battle.
Yeah, you know what? I'm changing my strategy. Loudmouth, cocky Trey didn't work. Didn't beat you. So we're gonna play humble. I'm gonna go to church on Sunday. We're gonna be fine. We're good.
As long as somebody live streams him going to church.
I went at Christmas with my grandma. It's probably the last time I went. So I didn't catch on fire, man. We're good. And the wine is delicious. So let's go.
The Green Rider devil that's underneath it and try to drag you down with it.
Yeah. That's scary. A gainer gopher demon. Oh, don't get like that one the Bombers posted. Oh,
that thing was nasty. And it had to have those green eyes. It just had to have the green eyes that terrorized Rider fans.
All right, I'm facing Oz from Rouge, White, and Blue in the podcast league this week, so I'll try to avenge you for the week before, Trey. And if you're not going to trash talk with Adam, I will this week because we're going head-to-head in the Discord league. You got to take us both on this week. Adam, you're screwed. Easy win for me. Looking forward to that. Hey, remember where the save button is, okay?
Oh, yeah, don't worry. I know where it is.
You've learned that by
just right beside where Mike's beating you right now in the Discord league.
He's beating you as well. Yeah, playoff spots are a thing. You might want to consider going for one.
Pretty cool.
Playoffs, yeah. Let's see, last week's matchups. I won a close one over Extreme 88. Adam, you did fall to Josh M, who's one of the top teams in the league. And Trey, you did lose to Mike, unfortunately. So, Mike had his big week last week thanks to Trey Ford in the late game. This week, Adam and I go head-to-head. Mike takes on FM Fan. Trey, you take on Josh M. So tough matchups for everybody but me this week because I got to face the 9th place team, Adam Stewart.
I like when Ryan brings out his little attitude. Like it's good. It's good. He's usually so quiet in the corner. He keeps us on the rails, and then when he wants to talk smack, he can.
Oh yeah.
I still remember in 1997 when Chris Walby went and said, the team that comes out here for the Grey Cup all confident and screaming and yelling are probably going to lose.
Easy. Half the podcast wasn't even born in 97. So relax, Adam.
Pretty sure the entire podcast was born before then. But
wow, but barely.
I was born in 88, so.
Barely. I was learning how to walk with the time you're talking about, man.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
So far, I've got to see the majority of Saskatchewan Rough Rider Grey Cups.
Well, 3 over 200 years. He's bound to see most of them.
Let's move on. Hey, all that matters is the 1-07. That's all I can say. 1-0 in that one.
You hold on to your 1 year until the drought ends 60 years from now.
Also, that Kahari Jones was injured because otherwise we would have been destroyed. But nevertheless.
Yeah, you hold on to whatever lets you sleep at night. That's all I can say on that one. Pick your one game and enjoy it forever.
Hey, as long as it's not 09, that's all I know.
That's the only penalty call my girlfriend knows. I love it. Well, actually, no, she's learned more, but that was the first one she learned.
It's an easy one.
Wish I could throw the objectionable conduct call right now.
Hey, they're looking for more refs, right? They're all moving to the command center, so maybe you should apply.
But I mean, Al Bradbury right now is the head referee in there. I mean, does that need to be explained any further?
Actually, could you imagine the four of us being a crew? That'd be fun.
Mike is our head judge, head referee, Mike.
Oh yeah.
Dibs on whichever spot involves the least running.
Yeah, give me and Adam the sidelines.
Yeah, you guys can run up and down.
Put us on the chain crew.
Oh yeah, give me give me whatever one calls pass interference or rough and stuff like that. I'll just throw across the field. Anyway.
All right, let's get into wrapping things up here tonight. And there it is. We'll be back again next week, same time, same place, week 15 preview. We'll do all the same fun things, so look forward to that. And I believe we'll have a special guest joining us for that as well. Adam, you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, we got another Rider fan coming to join me because, we never have enough of those around here.
Who signed off on this?
So Coach Phil, he is a gentleman out of Washington State. He came up to the last game here during the Labor Day Classic here against the Rough Riders and the Blue Bombers. Kind of a good advocate of the CFL in the USA side of things. And he wanted to join us and talk about his fandom and everything. So, he'll be joining us next week. Make sure you tune in for that one because that'll be huge. Unless we still have the rule about only one Rider fan per episode. In that case, I get another bye.
Oh, you'll be a game time decision no matter what, right? So we'll see. But to be fair, that's the life of a farmer. Looking forward to meeting and chatting with Coach Phil. If you're on CFL Twitter, you've seen him everywhere lately. Great YouTube content that he's got going on there as well. So do we have a Twitter handle for people who want to check him out? I just
followed him too because I never even knew about this guy. And he just literally popped up on my Twitter today. So that's weird how it happened. Where is he?
Coach Phil Reacts, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
All right. I believe he's also in the Discord community, so looking forward to chatting with him there as well. And speaking of the Discord, if you want to join that and chat alongside with us and other members and fans of the podcast and CFL fans in general, join the Discord community. The link's in the episode description. Lots of fun stuff going on there every single week. If you want to follow us on social media as well, we're on x.com at CF Countdown Pod, on Facebook, facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod there as well. I'm on Twitter at CooperTrooper42. I really don't tweet much. Mike's on Twitter at Mike Garrell. He's going to be away for the next probably couple of weeks at least. Just busy time of year for him work-wise. And Trey has finally found the banjo and brought it out here. So, you got the Banjo Bowl coming up this weekend, but what else you got going on these days, Trey? Where can people find it?
Not a damn thing. No, I do. Yeah, you can find me on the X at Trey Harness Link. Horse racing season. You think it's going to get cold, but they still somehow like to run, so it's always busy. NFL season, I'm always beyond. UFC this weekend's a gooder in Australia, so I'm sure I'll tweet about that. And, I'm not very good at playing the banjo, just like the Rough Riders in football. So, so here we go.
And you can find me at Adam Stewart1, mostly ignoring Trey's terrible jokes about the Banjo Bowl.
To be fair, the Premier of Saskatchewan did that one first years ago. I just stole it.
Yeah, I think it was in 07 also, which is awesome. Anyways, you can find me at Adam Stewart1. I'll probably be trash talking Bomber fans for a little bit this weekend because, it's kind of the rules of Saskatchewan. If you don't, you're kind of kicked out of the province. But I'll have lots more combining stuff and photos and harvests and all that good stuff, either at Adam Stewart1 or you can also check me out, I guess, on Instagram where I mostly am. At Farmer in Sask.
Hold up, people want to live in Saskatchewan?
Well, the other option was Manitoba, so it couldn't get much worse. So they keep it Saskatchewan.
Yeah, when we came over, or when people colonized here, screw this place. We're going farther west.
We're not ones to talk. I often hear the saying, "I'm from Winnipeg. What's your excuse?" So for why you're here. So I was born here. What's your excuse? for not leaving. I don't know.
See, I grew up
Sure,
closer
that
to
was on a
Saskatchewan, I
Simpsons
guess.
episode also.
What's that, Adam?
That was definitely on a Simpsons episode that Ryan's never watched.
Oh yeah, no. I mean,
That's it. Back to Winnipeg.
the number of references I find Winnipeg has on TV in general is crazy. Like, I don't know. I didn't even know, most film or TV companies knew we existed.
Wow.
There's actually a lot of animation students coming from here
Okay.
or something, so I think they get in there somehow. Yeah.
Well, like they said last week, they were worried about the smoke and everything in Saskatchewan. But luckily, Winnipeg sucked enough that, we ended up that we won that game. So, yeah, all good.
Yeah, whatever.
I'd say bring that smoke to Winnipeg this week, but please don't. Don't bring the smoke. But Adam, you coming? You got to get on the road, man. You got to get here for Saturday. You coming to Banjo Bowl?
I would love to. I don't know if it's going to happen yet. We're going to try, but we're going to see what happens here probably by tomorrow and see how we do for harvest. And if we get somewhere down the road, who knows? Maybe.
All right, well, fingers crossed. And if you get here in time, you can, I'm not fully agreeing to this, but you can sleep on my couch so I can change your fantasy lineup, take your phone and change your fantasy lineup at the last minute. No.
You realize by the time you get a hold of my phone, it'll be way too late, but okay.
I don't actually need dirty tricks to beat you. I was just making a joke. Okay, I think this has gone long enough. What else is there left to do besides mention whatever podcast platform you're listening on? We appreciate it if you do all the fun things such as like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends. Help us grow the show. We always appreciate that. Trey, you want to play us out on the banjo there?
I was gonna say, yeah, we're the number one podcast for kids. It sounds like too, right? So keep that up.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Da-da-da-da-da.
All right, on behalf.
We don't want to get taken off of YouTube for copyright, so yeah, let's send it.
All right, on behalf of Trey and Adam, I'm Ryan saying thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.